Good afternoon, Speed Gaming. I am Dark Moon here with you with Trenton as well. We are here to bring you a great match between Willcleosis and Webb. I believe this is the 3-1 bracket. Both these guys are looking to get to 4-1, get their automatic slot in the tournament, and not have to try and fight their way through a horde of others just to make it into the game. Trenton, how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing pretty well. Always interesting when we get some good route divergence. Willcleosis is bringing the double red mages with the black mage. Webb has brought the white mage. So, as far as full access to magic goes, that favors Webb. But if the white magic is very accessible, that's going to be advantage Will, because those red mages have a lot of diversity going for them.
Yeah, it's something that I've seen mentioned a couple times in the tournament, and it's just something that has been reminded to me again. The white mages are great when they have specific spells they need. The lives and the fades are in a slot where only the white mages can get to them, and everyone else is just kind of shut out. But in most other practical respects, because of their diversity of magic, especially when you have a black mage to back them up, it feels like the red mages are often your better bet, just because of everything they can do and the spells they have access to.
Not to mention the swords. Always the swords. Sometimes that's what you need, and that's what they can equip that the other mages cannot.
It's always that time where you're in Topher and your fighter goes down and you have to use your backup red mage with a Sun Sword or a Vorpal just to get you through it, and when they do, you're so happy. Looks like we're about to begin in just a couple seconds, just waiting for the stream to catch up with the chat room. So what are you hoping for at the start of this, Trenton?
You know, as a runner, I'm always hoping for that AoE sweeper spell that we can get through the early encounters with. If you want to see a little more entertaining show, a one-target kill like a Quad X or a Brack is a little more fun, and they'll still be okay with these mages, so it won't be super trolly, but something like that makes for a little more diverse start.
Our runners are on the move. They're automatically checking out those shops. We got Fast at level 1, which is lovely. Saber, which is useful for those red mages. And then they went to different shops. So over at the white mage, here we go. Mute is interesting, and Fog 2, which isn't bad, but I prefer Invis 2 myself.
Fog 2 will build your absorb instead of your evasion, so it's not a bad backup option when that's all you have. We do have chain armor to get a little bit of defense on all those mages. Will is taking a page out of my book, and I kind of took it out of Edgeworth's book, so can't be that far off. But buying just any weapon to put in the hands of the fighter. So it's just a little knife, it's not a lot, but it's something, and it ups the utility value of the fighter considerably.
I agree with that. I like having something in their hands, because if you don't put something in their hands, a knife or a basic short sword or something, then your fighter is basically just a meat shield that can't do anything.
By the way, Will did his typical play of run to the bridge, get the cutscene out of the way, and save after that, so that he'll never have to see that again.
I don't hate that play. It seems like a couple seconds wasted at the start, but for all those times where you cross the bridge and then die and have to sit through it again, it's just one of those conveniences to do and then never have to stress about it again. Haven't seen anything so far worthwhile in TOF.
No, a little bit of gold, but you do need even a little bit of gold in the early game. That's usually enough for one spell. So if you got to Elfland or Provoca in the near future, you'd want enough money to buy at least one casting nuke. But the runaway strats are not working out for Will here. He's down to just his 2 red mages. He's got enough Ice 2 charges, he should be able to pull this off.
Hopefully. The Grey Wolves.
This is a worst case scenario. Honestly, at that point with the poisons, I would have considered resetting.
And Webb did. Webb was forced to reset at that point. But oof, down to 1 health each on his red mages. That's and the Grey Wolves have just enough. Oh, and there it goes.
This is the one time that Will didn't take that extra level outside Canaria before going in. If you did that instead, like Webb has done now, if he goes back in and saves, he's got, well, in his case, he'll now have 6 Ice 2 charges, which is what Will had anyways, but if Will took the level, he'd go in there with 9 instead of 6, which would just let him blast everything along the way.
It hurts because there's no saving items right now at the town, so they have to just do this walk, and if they die, they have to do the walk again. Will obviously managing to get through to Garland and taking it out this time without seeing any of the Grey Wolves. Getting the herb and the crown. So we got a lot of walking quests going on here. The game is seemingly indicating that it wants you to go west, follow on around towards the Dwarf Cave. Now the question is, Trenton, would you do that, or would you go check what's at Provoca first?
I really favor going Provoca first because there's just too much that can be over there. Your best case, it's Provoca with the level 2 spells. You've also got the chance that it's Elfland, and you've got 1/4 of your magic for the game sitting over there. That's 2 of your options. A third option, it could be Crescent Lake. A fourth option, it could be it could be Gaia with the item shop that has your vendor item. So even if you don't have instantaneous automatic value going that way, you have more than a 50% chance of potential value.
There are a lot of options over at Provoca that would do well. I guess the only reason why I would think about even possibly just going around to do the herb and the crown first is just because those options are already available to you, and if one or both of them happen to turn into, like, ship or canoe and floater or any of those, and there's a town down at Elfland that's going to have magic that you can get, which for us right now is, what, a 2 out of 6 or 2 out of 7 chance that there's going to be something there that's worthwhile. I might take the gamble at this point and just do it, although, consider the fact that they're 3-1 right now, and they're just trying to get a lock into the tournament without having to do a play-in race. Maybe gambles aren't the play to go right now.
The other thing about walking this far is you're going to burn those Ice 2 charges along the way, and you're going to get to a reasonable level. So if Marsh Cave is still going to be required, you're going to have the higher levels to do it with. And that's the best kind of grind, the one where you don't have to stop and do anything. I mentioned Crescent Lake is one of the possibilities. Item shop is
meanwhile, Webb finds out that the crown is the Q, so that puts a little damper on how useful that is right now.
It is a required item, so it puts you that much closer to the bonus experience. But with the Mystic Key, he also has access to the 3 treasure chests here, as well as the trap tiles. Now, those trap tiles aren't very compelling. I'm sorry, we don't have the key. What am I saying?
I was going to ask what I missed. But the herb may turn into the Mystic Key, so we'll find that out soon.
That's true. That is what it turns into in the vanilla game, as Willcleosis finds the tail. So again, not immediate value in this item, but good to have. Also, he found the tents for sale, pretty cheap, so he's got that to make his walk easier.
Yeah, tents are fantastic at this point of the game when they don't have a lot of money. Just having them available so they can start doing their save scumming across the overworld is super useful. As you can see, Willcleosis is already doing that. And having the tail out of the way is nice, because now you can really start thinking about what magic do I want to pick up and when. Start jotting down those notes, getting them out of the way immediately so you don't even have to think about it.
So, we talk about this from time to time with these races, but maybe not a lot of in-depth. The premise here is you have X number of steps until your first encounter off of a power cycle, turning the console off, turning it on again. By throwing down the tent, you save, you get that walk, and you can keep getting that walk over and over again at the start of the encounter table, and cover a lot of ground without going through the fights, which is faster. The downsides, you're not getting experience. The upside is you're saving a lot of time to do that. And you can potentially use it to avoid really nasty encounters, like, say, Mad Ponies with Thunder. You know, that would be something that you wouldn't really want to fight if you saw it. So the advantage of the tents, you could just bypass those all day long.
And they seem to have a nice long run at the start of the encounter table for them to work with. This is one of those instances where being able to listen to the music of the game and memorize how many measures into the song of the overworld, and when you have the ship song as well, how far you need to get into there before your first encounter. Memorizing that and then knowing that stop right here on this note or around this note, save and move on, like do a full power reset to be able to just get that long encounter right back. You can really truck around the overworld without having to burn much in the way of charges at all.
Yeah, no, it's actually based on the step count. So it's every step you're taking moves you that much closer as long as you're in an encounter zone. If you are really good at that, you can count the number of steps. I'm not really good at that, so I cue it off the music.
Yep. That was what I was indicating. Like, so, I know some players can be like, okay, I've just moved 5 this way, 3 this way, I had it all up in my head. I'm like, I'll just listen to the measures, and if I have to save a couple steps beforehand, oh darn.
It's generally a solid way to do it, but occasionally it's on such an awkward note that it's hard to get it to the step.
Yeah.
It also can vary based upon the tiles you're walking on, because not all of these tiles are encounter tiles. The best way I've heard it described came from Gaia, who says anytime it's a double-use tile, like that dock that Webb just walked the horseshoe shape around, those are not eligible for an encounter. You will not get an encounter on them, and they do not move you a step closer to the encounter.
So I see from the tracker that Willcleosis, of course, has his cube because he had the levels to go take out Astos with ease. Doesn't look like Webb kept his cube, though, so he's going to have to re-get that when he's here. So, a little bit of lost time there, but not a huge deficit all around.
Yeah, he ran into the Thunder ponies after that, and he was not in a position to survive or save. Will is...
And he has a ship now. He just has to get away from these arachnids.
That lets him avoid Marsh Cave for now, which is understandably a bit of a gamble because we don't have the canoe and we don't have the floater.
And it did look like for a second he was debating whether or not to go and check that out. Bane at level 7, so his game-clinching spell may be out of reach for right now. But yeah, with the ship available to them, they have the Melmond area to go check as well now. They can actually sail all the way over to Crescent Lake, and using the bonus docks that have been inserted in for extended open progression, that opens up areas like the on-rack area as well, which you can dock at with a special dock there, and go check the town even if you don't have the canoe.
Now, with Provoca off the table, or not being sighted yet, you've got access to 3 towns out of 5 that can lead to that. We've seen Crescent Lake, so we've already got the item out of there. And a very discount price on the houses, which is nice with all these mages.
Well, it's post-recession right now, so everything's still recovering. But yeah, you are correct with the fact that there are 3 towns out there. The odds of Provoca being somewhere that you can get to, especially because it has a key item, so the game, normally when it's populating where the towns are going to go in this shuffled town randomizer, is going to try and put the key items in a place, especially if they're necessary, where you can get to them. The odds are, if we want to do math right now, the odds are that the key item is, the Provoca town with its key item is going to be somewhere that they can get to from the ship.
Now, right now what they have access to is a 100% chance of an incentivized item, or not actually 100, but close to it, in Marsh Cave, and a 3 in 5 chance that you're going to be able to get to Provoca and have another option. So it's actually still really, really likely that that Marsh Cave is required. We've got the crystal, though, and plenty of money on Willcleosis. I'm sorry, no, not enough money on Willcleosis' side to pick it up. So this does favor going to one of the other towns, either Onrak or Crescent, and there is enough out there to potentially get you the money for that crystal.
There are enough places, and there's enough decent areas that they can get to for a quick grind here or there as they're just doing treasure diving, that I kind of feel like going and worrying about that crystal just yet isn't a big deal. They'll get to that soon. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out where they want to go now at this point and what they want to do. Without the canoe, a number of areas that we might all be leaning towards instead of going to Marsh Cave are off the table. The only downside of Marsh Cave right now is that with 57,000 being the required amount for the crystal, I don't feel like they're going to find that much treasure unless they're really lucky in Marsh Cave.
You could potentially find a big treasure box. You could find gear for sale that would do it.
It's a possibility.
Easy walk from the southern dock of Elfland to get there, but I think Will is heading over to Crescent Lake first.
Will's doing his town checks. Meanwhile, Webb seems to be aiming for Marsh Cave, if I had to guess from what he's doing right now. He's doing that walk from Elfland you were just talking about.
Yeah, it's with this encounter table with the gap at the front, it's not that far to get there. It could be a little ugly in here. I think based on the information we've seen, it makes a lot of sense to get all the treasures checked here, as long as it's a mild marsh cave, trying to get the money. We do, on the other side of things, have Provoca. So what do the pirates have today?
And so this is part of the reason why, if it was me, I would put off doing Marsh Cave. For right now, it's just because if Provoca really is easy to get to, you can get some spells for the spell levels that you've earned. Get your canoe, in this particular instance, from BK the clown, the pirate. And then you'd be better equipped and better capable of going to Marsh if that's your next step. But with the canoe here and the options available, I might skip over Marsh entirely and think about doing, Volcano or something else instead.
And that to me is really why Webb needs this to be something major. He needs a canoe, he needs a floater to be here for this to pay off versus what Will did. Nukes at level 2.
Lovely.
That is big for Will's party. Webb's party definitely suffers on that front, having only 2 casters instead of 3.
And life at level...
Exit.
Yeah, life and exit at level 2. That life is going to be useful once they upgrade their knights, because it's one more thing that they're going to be able to cast and actually help their party out. Life knights are amazing.
Realistically, the value of the white mage has dropped tremendously in this seed. Now, the advantage to that is it makes it really easy to drop the white mage and take the bonus experience on everybody else. But Webb won't know that until getting to Provoca.
It's the thing of, if you go to a 3-man party, you have a 3-man party basically pre-built for you right now, just to the way that the magic goes. Whereas Will can keep all 4 up and not suffer the penalty of it, but if he decides that he's going to damn one of his mages, he can pick and choose which one. The black mage traditionally has the worst health build. It gets health slower than every other character in the game, basically. So if he was going to dump anyone, I might consider, because of all the good magic at levels 1 and 2, just danning that black mage for portions of the game to get the extra experience on the other characters.
You can go either way with that, because the red mage is not great about running away. I did a run earlier this week with the solo red mage just to show how bad the running was, if nothing else. But the black mage makes it a little more likely you're going to get away. At the same time, that's not great. I prefer the durability of the red mage. But here's the biggest thing that it's done for him. Ice 2, you figure, is killing most things in this marsh cave. Nuke is absolutely killing most things in this marsh cave. So now you've got 2 spell levels times 3 casters to sweep the encounters out of the way, and hopefully exit when you're all done to get out of here.
Yeah, so long as he bought it, which I don't see why he wouldn't have picked up exit. It was level 2, which meant, yep, he's got it. Everyone can have that spell. Now, the downside is there were so many good spells at level 2 that, as far as his red mages were concerned, he really had to prioritize what he felt was absolutely necessary. It looked like in this particular instance, Nuke, Life, and Exit were the ones that he cared about, and Nuke and Life being on the same level doesn't always feel the best.
No, that made for a pretty automatic 3 for a red mage. Those are absolutely the 3 you have to learn. You're not going to prioritize any black magic spell over nuke, except it would have to be fast, basically. I don't even think you can take temper over nuke. And
a ribbon there.
Ribbon.
Yeah, I like Quad X. I think Quad X is a great spell. In this particular instance, because of the Force Black Mage, everyone can get Quad X and not even have to worry about prioritizing their levels there. But when you have all those other spells on there, Nuke and Life competing especially, your charges are going to have to be maintained at the end game, but at least you don't have to worry at the end game about exit, because once you get to the end game, exit's really not even a priority anymore.
Well, I said the best case scenario for Webb was the floater to be here. Lo and behold, that comes true. He picked it up, he got out of here with it. So now he's going to go in exactly the same direction that Willcleosis did, except he's going to go to the southern dock at the desert, pick up his airship, even potentially before Will does.
It helps them.
He'll be airborne and able to go right into Provoca.
Yeah.
With a little more efficient routing overall.
I do think that best case scenario, though, was really that Floater was here and Will wasn't hot on his heels. This cuts down the amount of time that Webb could have earned from this a bit, but at the same time, it still gives Webb a slight advantage because of better routing here. If Will had wandered off and gone and done some other stuff for a while before finally coming to Marsh Cave, though, that would have given Webb a much clearer advantage.
Webb proves one is all you need. He was able to get out and restore his party. Actually, Will's going to be able to get to that desert faster based on the reviving, and also the fact that Webb is at the northern dock instead of the southern dock. No, that's going to take longer to travel.
So while they're retracing steps and getting the floater out of the way, there were some notes that Willcleosis provided us that I did want to share. Normally, Will likes to do a lot of preparation for these matches, and often provide notes for all of us in the process. He, unfortunately, wasn't able to do as much practice and preparation for this one as he wanted to. He ran only 3 matches leading into this game that we're watching today, and 2 of those ended with a chaos that had Tier 4 in such a position that it was near impossible for Will to finish out the match. So, as far as he was concerned, he came in a little unprepared. As we see, Gaia is actually Melman right here, just to give everyone a little update. And then due to scheduling conflicts between the 2 players and everything else, this was a hard match for both of them to schedule, but we have it going on now, and it looks like it's already turning into quite the interesting little festivity for us.
The adamant turns out to be the sorta item. That'll be an easy turn-in. So an interesting choice made on Webb's side to sell the opal armor. With the tail being free, and you've got the floater, so you know you can instantly turn that in. That's throwing away his best absorbed armor without finding dragon armor, which is not a guarantee by any stretch. Lazy Dwarfs, as Smithy McBeard's sword, has the TNT.
The angry feuding dwarfs once again have the item the other dwarf wants. They need to communicate better.
And that's the loot, so required.
It's not necessarily progression right this second, but it is one of the items that you're gonna need to be able to finish the game.
We have complete access to the overworld right now. We'll need the Oxyale, the Rod, and the Chime to be able to finish the dungeons at this point. And the key, just in general, we need it.
Yeah, it's at this point all we're really concerned with is making sure we get those last few items that'll help us finish things out. Will going and doing the Cardia Islands, getting his items and so forth out of the way, and this is also going to provide him with a lot of the treasure that he's going to need, treasure and money, so he can go pick up that crystal.
The other thing that I thought was interesting about Webb's decision, well, he is going to have money, so he's going to have access to purchase the crystal is the big trade-off for him. But I would have liked to check the Cardia Islands first, because maybe you find the 65k gold chest, and you don't have to worry about selling the gold.
Yeah, it feels like a move that some of our very gambly kind of players would do. The buzzsaw and the chitons and so forth that will see a really valuable item and then just sell it immediately to get the the money for the treasure so they can continue advancing through the sea. In this particular instance, though, I agree with you that since you don't know where dragon armor is yet, you're not certain you're going to find dragon armor, and you can already start slapping that tail right on your knight. Keep the opal, and then maybe save it for later if you have to sell it.
Yeah, and mind you, opal armor with the ribbon on is as good as having the dragon armor. Actually, it's superior because the ribbon has more resistances. We found the defense sword hanging out here. Right now, that's the best weapon we have for a knight. It's also one of the best utility items in the game, casting ruse on the holder of it.
Yeah, this is something that, I mean, people who have seen various Final Fantasy games and action are probably used to at this point, but I know when I played through the vanilla game, I had no clue about any of this. There are a number of items in the game that you can use as an item instead of as a weapon in combat, and then they automatically cast a spell. So, Black Shirt and Ice 2, Defense Sword, cast Ruse. It's one of those things that I kind of wish I'd known about when I first played through Final Fantasy, because those things would have helped me a lot.
By no means did I figure that out on my first playthrough, but at some point I was curious about these ones that had names, and I think I started with either a heal staff or heal helmet and said, what happens if you use them? And that's how I learned about the spellcasting items.
Yeah, I'm not certain there's actually a townsperson in the game that tells you about it, but I know I figured it out just by watching other people play Final Fantasy and speedruns and so forth, and once I saw it, I'm like, why am I not doing this? This is amazing!
Well, half of them were broken anyways, so there's that.
That is true. On the original NES cart, like, half the spells just don't work to begin with. As we saw from as chat reminds us, Willcleosis just plowed through those pillars. I think he got 2 wrong moves that really didn't penalize him at all, and then suddenly he's at the exit and just moving on with his life.
Yeah, that's a ridiculously good run through Castle Ordeals. It does not go that well. Not normally.
No, that was like, 3 rooms and he's out. It was amazing. Because, if you're not aware, the teleporters in Castle Ordeals are shuffled in the current version of the Randomizer. That's one of those options that's, I believe, on by default that you can turn off if you want to have the standard pillars, but at this point we're all so used to having randomized pillars, why would we ever turn that off?
A flame sword is going to be a pickup for one of the red mages, or wizards in this case. Red sword is as well, so we have a little bit more on the swords side of things now, but
yeah,
I'm guessing he's got enough nuke charges to get out of here without ever swinging a sword the rest of the way.
Yeah, the defense sword is one of the stronger swords in the game. It's one of those top 5, I think I hear people say, if they're gonna have to use one of them to get through the end game. It's not as strong as your Mosmoon or your Vorpal or so forth, and it's not like you're gonna sell it, because even if you're not swinging it, you're gonna want the ruse casts on it. But Flame Sword is nice for the mid-game, slightly weaker than the Ice Sword, and Ice Sword is really just right outside of what you want to use if you're gonna have to do an end-game run. It can be buffed with the Power Gauntlet and fast charges and so forth to make it useful, but it's not the strongest of the swords out there, and Flame is right behind it. So you like seeing the Flame Sword, but it's not exactly the best.
The hit percent chance on defense is one of the very best in the game, so you'll get to an extra swing faster than you will on something like Fire or Ice Sword. I would actually take it. If you made me choose, I would take defense as my one sword over any others because I know it had ruse as well.
Yeah.
But as far as damage output, no, it's not going to compare to Masa or Excalibur, one of those.
It's still a fantastic sword, though, and with a little buffing, it'll get you through the game, no problem. We saw Webb just a couple seconds ago try and go to the on-rack area with his airship. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the canoe yet, so he wasn't able to actually do that right now. Canoe was sitting over at the... Double-checking.
It was
over with
Crescent
Vicky.
with the pirates.
Yeah, so he just... Has he actually been to Provoca area yet over at Crescent Lake?
Not to the Crescent Lake area. He bypassed it. Or certainly would have killed the pirates already. So
yeah, well, I know.
Unfortunately, he got caught up. I think it just... You'll find yourself in this position sometimes where you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, and you find yourself actually skipping A and jumping right on to B. I think that's what happened to him in this case.
I've done that. I know I get the airship, and then I suddenly forget that either like Crescent Lake or Sarda exists, and I have to like have a little notepad sitting next to me being like, did you do this? Make sure to do these in this order once you get this, because you're gonna forget otherwise. It's really easy in this game once it opens up.
Will, what are you doing, Will?
Getting that sweet, sweet steak. Mm-hmm.
Can't microwave steaks. That's just a horrible thing to do.
I agree with you on that. You want to do a nice light sear on them with a flame or something. The nice fire 3 would be great. The nuke's overkill. That's gonna ruin the meat.
Yeah, also you waste 2 spell charges on that. Well, I keep telling people that the Tyros just aren't worth your time. You're investing time in a bad source of experience.
I agree with you. That's the big reason to let those sweet-looking animals survive. And we see that Onrak is Elfland. Black magic really doesn't have much interesting. Maybe the sleep spell if you're feeling feisty.
This is a big pickup for Webb in the Volcano. Finds the Opal Bracelet, which is the best defense that a red mage is going to get. Cure 4 and Fade are at level 3. So's Heal 3. This is a case of kind of a badly stacked white magic spell level.
You know,
and the slab! Loose slab in the Volcano. Sorry to cut you off.
Now, you know the spell slots better than I did. Cure 4 and Fade were in the 3 and 4 slots of that shop for a level 3. Are either of those accessible to the knight?
I have never been able to memorize those. I just try and learn it because it takes me half a second to find out. We do have bracket level 4.
Oh, wow.
I've been playing this randomizer, I think, for 2.5, going on 3 years, and I still haven't that. We do got the game clencher. The Bane Sword is also.
Woo!
That is a really loaded armory.
That is a fantastic armory.
Yeah, Bane Sword, Opal Bracelet, and Slab. Apparently Power Gauntlet too. I missed that.
Wow. See, and that's part of the reason why when there's conversations about where you go once you've done your basic checks, what dungeon do you start with? I know a lot of people like getting Ice Cave out of the way because it has an incentivized item. For my money, I go and do Volcano like 90% of the time. Not because there's any necessary progression there, although in this case we found the slab. It's just that there's such a high chest density in that armory, and if you want to go check the other floors around it where there's a bunch more chests, it feels like you almost always get good equipment in there, and when you have a knight, you want to find that good equipment as soon as you can.
Willcleosis has sailed up to the waterfall, knowing that the robot is likely holding on to something of value. When you start piecing together what's going to be required and what's not, if you found a ribbon, well, actually it was a loose ribbon in this case, but if one of the incentive locations hands you a ribbon and another hands you the tail, you pretty well have to hit every other incentive location. Looks like Webb unfortunately took a wipe, has to redo this volcano.
Yeah, the giant slash iguana pack had some nasty little skills on them like sleep and stun, and it pretty much wiped his party out before they could do anything. So Webb has to go back and redo it again. Crabcakes in chat was disagreeing with me on going to do Volcano and instead wants to do the incentivized areas first, like Ice Cave and Waterfall, like Willcleosis is doing. And I mean, she's currently undefeated in the tournament, so I can't argue with her.
No, it's hard to argue with somebody who clearly has a good handle on the routing. But Elfland being up here at an inconvenient place is hurting Webb. Also, based on what was pasted about spell permissions, it looks like Fade was restricted to the White Mage.
Is it White Mage only, or can the Red Mages pick that? Did you see?
White Mage only, based on what was posted.
Woo. Ouch.
Webb is trying attempt number 3 to get this stuff out of here, and this is where not hitting the Crescent Lake location is truly, truly hurting him, because he'd have exit right now, and he could just get out of here like it's nothing.
Wouldn't have to try and walk it out. It would be very useful to him.
He's also hurting a little bit because he sold that Opal Armor, because he'd have much better defense than Chain Armor on that poor knight right now.
Yeah. It's... Well, and... Has he upgraded his knight yet? Because he's not...
Yes, he
There
did.
he goes.
He's equipping that Opal stuff.
I was going to say, now he's finally starting to put that Opal stuff on, because...
Yeah. Honestly, I would even put the Opal bracelet on the knight right now, because it's better defense. iron armor. And you
Frost-
gotta try and get out of here.
It's surprise frost Fiends is part of the problem. I think I've seen that encounter more than once, and it seems like they have a high ambush rate, and they are frost happy. So the EX Fiends do not want you to kill them this time around.
You know, I'm actually coming to the point I think Webb has in his head that he already went to Crescent Lake.
I feel that.
Because I just don't know why he'd be rediving this without checking that first.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you have, when you're doing a entrance shuffle like this, and it's just towns, but it's still an entrance shuffle of a type, it's very easy to get confused. And even when I'm just doing a town shuffle like this, I still have like a spreadsheet open that says, this is this one, and here are the things that are at it, just so I remember, because when everything starts getting mixed up like this, it's really easy to forget.
So it was asked in chat about what opponents these runners faced to get here. Webb got here with a win over Wraithhate's Caleb, a win over Tristal, a win over Tarnan, and falling to One Fine Day. As for Webb, that loss came in week number 1 to Show, followed up with a win over Magius, a win over Wout, and a win over Hierophilus.
Thunder Giants. So that's the other half of it that we are seeing. The Fiends had Frost, followed up by the giant Iguana pack that had Sleet as well as Thunder. So that was just a nasty Volcano right there. Without Exit, it's really hard to get those items in.
The crystal turns into the chime. Now we have access to the Mirage Tower. We're still going to need the Oxyale and the Mystic Key for Go Mode.
They're on their way. It's trucking along nicely. So Will is, of course, progressing through and continuing to do his various incentivized checks. And I think at this point, knowing how bad Volcano is, I can't disagree with this play. Webb finally getting over to Crescent to find that it's Provoca, so he can do these checks and get his lovely exit spell. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back and does Volcano Dive after that, just to get the items he knows he wants from there.
Here we go for Webb. He's finally on to the Pirates and about to get his canoe. Also, he'll find Nuke and Exit available here, which are going to make life a whole lot easier. Your problem isn't so much living through one round of the Fiends. Frost isn't that damaging, especially not to a Ribbon, but his levels in HP are really low. And he didn't have Nuke to kill him with. He was trying to do it with Ice too, which did not feel good.
No, they're not exactly, like, feeling that. And that's part of the problem, is the fact that he went in there at such a low level. It's not a bad dive, considering the equipment. It's just his inability to get out of it because he didn't have Exit was really what was hurting him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with level 2 Nuke if he goes right back in there and gets all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, especially with the Exit, because he knows he can safely get in there, check everything, and get out.
Now, chat was asking who we think is ahead right now, and it's still really too early to call it officially that we have a true leader, but Will has made a little more progress over Webb, and Webb unfortunately had a few quick deaths in Volcano and didn't hit Crescent Lake Provoca area when they probably should have. So I think that's probably put them behind a couple minutes from where they could have been. They have had better routing in the early game, all things considered, though, so right now it kind of feels like a bit of a wash.
I like to go by advantages instead of quote-unquote lead, because you really don't have a lead until you go into Temple of Fiends Revisited first. But
it's true.
Right now, Will has the edge of covering more ground, he's got the edge of having more levels. Information is kind of a push because Webb knows where the loose slab is. So unless or until Willcleosis gets to Volcano and finds the slab, that's actually a significant little advantage for Webb.
It's very true. He at least knows where one of those loose items is at, and we have 2 of them in the game, and we have found a loose ribbon, but we're not certain whether or not that's a loose key ribbon of the one ribbon that's actually a key incentivized item. So it's entirely possible that just that slab alone could give Webb all the advantage that he needs in the long run.
Images firing off Blaze just to mess with your day. in the Volcano. Webb now is back into the armory. Should be able to exit out of here safely. Good stuff.
Blaze is nasty, but consider the fact that he has a bunch of life casters at this point. I mean, the Knight probably doesn't have charges of it yet, but 2 red mages with life, it's not the worst in the world that's going to happen. As long as one of them is still standing at the end of it, and with the ribbon you'd assume one of them would be, it doesn't feel that bad.
Well, coming up to the north side chest, often people go up that way, use warp to check all 3 chests faster, but we don't have access to that right now.
And there's that dragon armor.
That's going to take the edge off of Webb selling the opal armor. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't pick up that dragon armor at some point. But now you've got all the elemental resistances instead of just thunder. You'll get the basic elementals, that is. Not every.
Now, the one thing about being in that one chest is that's the least convenient of the 3 without warp. I know I've seen some good runners skip that particular chest out of all of them just because they assume there's not going to be anything worthwhile there. And I know from my own fat fingering when I try to control her over there, sometimes I push too hard and accidentally skip that chest and fall down the hole. So there's a possibility that chest could be skipped, but it's unlikely. And with exit, Webb is finally going to be able to get all these treasures out and get that advantage that he's been looking for.
Yeah, the advantage of this play is the longer and longer it takes Willcleosis to get into this volcano. Webb wants to see Will go all the way through Mirage and Sky, not finding that key item. That's what really could pay dividends for him all this time invested.
It's entirely possible. I do think, though, that with him being here, there's a good chance that he could just wander over Volcano and just do a first floor check while he's at it, because he's gotten most of his incentivized areas out of the way. He's really just, at this point, Ordeals and Waterfall, but those are on the other side of the world, and, some of it is just routing proximity. Where do you go with what you have? And it feels like Volcano's an obvious play to make at this point, just because you're here. You got the levels, you got the spells. You could honestly do the full Volcano dive just to get it out of the way, because Gary's not that hard with the spells and equipment he has. I could see it going either way.
Ribbon number 2 is located in the Ice Cave. Will now has 2 of those, which really ups the stability of your party. You're not dying to a lot of magic right now.
No, yeah, he's doing really well on the equipment front, and this has been a decently loaded Ice Cave. It's another really nice dungeon to find like this when you can find all this great equipment. And as a benefit to Will, once he's done here and he's checked the eye chest, the incentivized chest, he can just exit out. Doesn't even have to do a second lap.
That is big. I think the big question is, does Will take a couple of eye fights? He doesn't like to do a stop and grind very much, and I don't think you want to invest a ton of time into that play, but I do think there would be an advantage in getting 3 or 4 kills here, because you haven't seen a ton that just wrecks you here. You've seen stuff that hurts, but not a lot. Sun Sword is going to be good offense.
It's a very nice little sword to have for your red mage. And with weapon fixes on, it does a bit of bonus damage to the undead while they're at it. The thing is, his levels are pretty good, and with Nuke being at the same level of exit, if he does decide to do a grind, I wouldn't see it being a very long one, because he needs to conserve those charges, and this eye is just beefy enough that swords alone don't seem to do it on a single round.
Yeah, that's enough to steer me away from this, even liking the idea of getting the levels. You want to do that if it's an easy play. If it's not an easy play, it's just wasted.
And Will is going to Volcano, so that advantage for Webb is down.
Now, at this point, Webb's going to need to find something in an unusual place that Willcleosis does not to level off the advantage scales. Will has had good routing throughout this. He's making good progress through the seed, and it honestly started with as simple a route divergence as Will going to the Crescent Lake area while Webb went straight into the Marsh cave. That gave Will access to exit and nuke, which made those dives so much faster. We've got the Aegis Shield found on Wabb's side in the Volcano. And Webb, it took a couple tries to get through Marsh.
Considering the equipment that's out there at this point, once Will that Aegis Shield, I could easily see him just slapping the ribbons on both his red mages, going Dragon Armor and Aegis Shield on the Knight, and pretty much just calling it a day at that point, because he's got all the equipment he needs for a solid 3-man party there.
Chat discussing our broadcast schedule a little bit. This is a very busy day for Final Fantasy Randomizer, so there'll be a lot going on over a variety of channels. Your best bet is, one, join us in the Discord, and you can find the link on FinalFantasyRandomizer.com. You can also, on Twitch, follow Final Fantasy as a game, and then see all the action that's going on throughout the day, throughout all time. You can check the game anytime you want to. Now Will's going to find out how loaded this armory is.
Plus, if you do miss any of the games and you need to go back and catch them later, we have the FFR Live channel over on YouTube now, and playlists are set up for each of the weeks of the tournament and some of the other things that we have going on there right now. It's a great way to play catch-up and see any of the matches that you might have missed. So it seems like Webb's getting some good stuff, but also just a fair bit of money as he continues his dive through. I'm thinking based on his levels, there's a good chance that he might just try and finish out this dungeon while he's here.
I'm not sure I feel confident in Webb's ability to kill carry. If he gets the mages there with enough nukes, okay, that does solve a lot of problems. But I'm looking at that knight, and I don't think that's necessarily enough. Now you could ribbon up the knight and use the defense sword, and you can get through there eventually that way. So there is a possibility, but it feels like this could be a pretty slow carry fight, depending on how the stats roll.
So we can see it from the build-up that Will is doing with his various equipment right now, not even bothering to equip much on the Black Mage as it is, even though he has at least a silver bracelet there. I don't think that he's going to be bothering with that Black Mage anytime soon. It's the lack of equipment, the lack of need for it, because the Red Mages pretty much take care of anything that they need. It's the Black Mage's value in this particular seed is greatly diminished.
Well, the biggest thing that's still out there is the fast spell.
I thought fast was level 1.
Okay. Yep, good call. Temper, make that. So
Temper.
A temper at a high level, like 6 or 7, where the Black Mage is getting the extra charges, that would be one thing to tilt the scales. But I think the Black Mage was really kept around the early game, the Marsh Cave, where the extra spell charges had a ton of value. Here in the Volcano, you don't need as many spell charges.
No, the weapon build-out is good. The enemies aren't able to take them out anywhere near as fast. And actually, from the fact that he didn't bother healing one of his red mages, I'm wondering if he's looking at maybe doing a two-man grind for a while here through the game, because, yeah, he just doesn't seem to care about that one.
It's very much a possibility. This is a good place to drop that extra red mage down, because all you have to do is not heal from walking through the lava.
Yeah, there he goes, putting him at the front.
Oh, that pretty well answers the question. And yeah, he's got enough resources. He feels confident in his ability to kill carry here. He's got the Sun Sword as well as the Defense Sword. He's set up well to do this.
He has the levels, he has the equipment, he has nuke. I wouldn't see this being any kind of problem for him to be able to handle a two-man finish out for this dungeon. Get a few extra levels, maybe hit a couple Agamas in the process, and then move on with his life and get a crystal in the process.
Yeah, and I think from here he goes to Mirage Tower, and he's clearing those first couple floors, getting levels, exiting, restoring the magic charges, and that's where he can really shine with that two-man party getting the level.
Oh, I am always a fan of, as I like to put it, the ill-advised Sky Palace play. As soon as you get those items, I feel this deep desire to go there, no matter how stupid it may be to do it, just because there's good equipment there, and there's great levels to be earned from the really powerful enemies that are riding in there. Sky Palace is a great place to go. So Will is basically following up on what Webb was doing, so we'll focus on Webb instead, who's up against Carrie. And Carrie didn't seem to have much going on for her, because the fighter and the White Mage were able to take it out. It looked like the White Mage was the one to finish it with the Zeus Gauntlet. So Carrie is out of the way, reviving one of his party members, saving, getting ready to go, and we'll see where Webb decides to head to next. Webb hasn't been to all the places that Willcleosis has been, so this is a bit of a catch-up run for Webb. Meanwhile, Will is doing his Agama fights. And as soon as I said that, it's already done. So, unfortunately, no Agam effects for the group. I'm so sorry. Red Giants have ruse. I wouldn't want to fight them at this point. That's not a physical fight you want to get into. Webb going through and doing his restock of his items. Heal pots are decently cheap. I've seen them for much cheaper in the tournament here, but 41 isn't the worst price they could be, especially now that they have plenty of money to go around. And even the red Ds don't seem to be all that bad, so that's not too terrible. That was a decent little fight to take. Get a house for it, which isn't really what you want to see, but not bad. That said, it looks like those Agamas go down like nothing. They're tissue paper. So I might have taken a few more of those fights just to be prepared for it. So Will's going into his carry fight with his fighter and his red wizard. Defense sword's up, gets a fast out. His fighter should be ready to go at this point. Although she still hit him for 62 damage from the looks of it. 8 hits for 81, followed up with a nuke for 322. Carry casts Dark, which isn't going to be scary at all. Another nuke comes out. 312 damage. Carry hits with slow, but it doesn't look like it actually got either of the guys. 7 hits for 91 damage. Bane Sword comes out. Ineffective. Knight flashes up. 6 hits for 43 damage. Carry has a decent amount of absorb. That's not to be ignored. Ice 2 comes out for 32 damage, followed up by a Defense Sword. 8 hits for 40 health. This is a back-and-forth battle here between these guys. 7 hits for 42 damage. Carry lashes back out, doing 18 damage. Nuke for 400, and that's what's going to take out Carry right there. This Carry in particular gave up a bit of a fight, but Will was able to take her out and get on the board. So really, as far as Lighting Crystal is concerned, they're only a couple of minutes behind each other. And Webb now doing that ill-advised Sky Palace play that I love so much, going in to see what all the equipment is around here. Heal Helm is decent. Some quick healing. Nice money if you decide to sell it.
Heal Helmet is tied with Silver Helmet for defense, so as far as Absorb score goes, it's your second best. It doesn't get a lot of love with a single knight because Ribbon.
Yeah, and that's the problem with putting on any helmet, Opal or Silver or Heal or any of those, is that since it takes the same slot as your Ribbon, you're almost invariably going to slap that ribbon on instead.
Well, the Bacon Addict is satisfied for another day. Willcleosis has handed over the slab, and all you get in return is the silly little language that nobody else speaks.
Books on tape. That's all Dr. Oon is selling is books on tape. Learn this language in 5 minutes or less, but, you gotta take it into your tape deck on your airship and start playing them out. Ice 3 at the Black Magic level 5 shop. It's nice to have Ice 3, and he has charges for it, so I wouldn't complain about buying that at this point.
Yeah, that's a really good find as far as the element spells go. It's the best, and it's the best answer against a lot of bad enemies like the waters.
Yeah, it's great to have against the waters, since that's their weakness. I didn't see really anything useful for Webb in the first floor of Sky. Question is if he's going to do the long walk to check second floor. I assume he would, and looks like he's already aiming that way. Ooh, the Wiz Mummy regular mummy pack is unrunnable.
That's not terrible news. The biggest thing that does for you is they cannot ambush you. So your turn order situation is going to be a little improved on average. And finding 5 of them being Wiz Mummies, it's a fantastic source of experience.
Yeah, that particular one, which didn't have any of the birds in it, was a great version of that fight to take. And there's another one of them right there. The Wiz Mummy regular mummy pack can show up in water, or not water, in a sea shrine, can it?
Also, Harm 4 is great to have here, but we're seeing a clear showing off of the fact that these undead enemies can be hit by harm spells, but they are not weak, fortunately. So the damage isn't always great, and having your red mage turn to stone, debatable whether or not that's great.
Yeah.
It's an
Stone
easy
touch
way
Wiz
to
Mummies
do
aren't
it.
exactly what you want to see right there. Like this battle seemed like a great one to take until they suddenly stone touching, and you're like, you know what? Maybe not so much.
And I believe with that Mystic Key, Willcleosis is now in go mode.
Yeah, it would seem to indicate that one of the ribbons or the ruby is the final loose item. Oh, it's probably the ruby then, because we already found one of the 2 loose items. And with everything else that they have, it is unlikely that there's anything out there that would prevent them from being in go mode at this point. It's just spells and equipment at this point, and then get on your way. So Wabb's continuing to take really solid fights here at this point. The Wiz Mummies, the Vampire Packs, these are all really good experience to have. So while it's, you probably feel a little bad that you're getting slowed down and still haven't made it to that treasury here on the second floor, that's a ton of great experience. Whatever level advantage Will might have from the 2-man party is equalized at least a little from all of these great packs to fight right there, because he's already getting up into the level 15 range.
Yeah, the biggest thing is not where 2-man puts you at any given time, it's where it puts you when you're going into Temple of Fiends Revisited. If Will 2-mans this the rest of the way, he's looking at between 26 and 28 on these 2 going in, which is, as compared to most of the 4-man parties, go in at the 20 to 23 range.
And with the easiness of some of these seeds we've had, we've seen parties make it through at 18 or 19 in this flag set. So 28's going to feel godly by comparison. Will, though, seemingly continuing to check at least some of the chests, though. I know some of them are greed chests and so forth. Maybe he's hoping to find that 3rd ribbon or Masamune or Vorpal or something, but it's one of those things where it's like, he's so close to go mode, there can't be that much left that he's looking.
Now, especially with Power Gauntlet and Defense Sword already in the bank, it certainly diminishes the value of looking for another sword, although Masa's always going to feel better having it than not.
And we do know that Will is Team Vorpal, as he has it right there in the bottom corner of his screen. So, maybe he's really hoping to find the game changer, as everyone likes to.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised he comes here in go mode, but it is a fairly dense location and it plays off of muscle units, so I can't imagine Will doesn't go mode from here. Yes, he's on Team Vorpal, but he knows Masa is sufficient.
That was pretty much the result you wanted when you do a check like that, is, oh look, quote-unquote the best sword in the game, depending upon what your preference is. I don't think I need to go check anything else at this point. It's a great find. And Webb is, like, constantly getting barraged by these undead packs here. The Wiz Mummies are the trick, because they are just super loaded with health.
Yeah, they're an experience-rich encounter, but they're proving to be entirely too durable if they're surviving a nuke and a harm 4 and making you go to a third spell.
Yeah.
That's just awful.
It's a bit much. The vampires, though, seem to have just about in the range of 200 health or so. So those are easy enough to take out with just about anything you want. The unfortunate thing is both the Whiz Mummies and the vampire packs were unrunnable, so you were forced to fight every single one of them. Experience is great, but it's wasting a lot of time because he's only just now getting to the 3rd floor, like 4 or 5 minutes into this run. In the time it took for him to make it through the 2nd floor of Sky, Will has basically gotten to the end of Earth Cave.
Didn't explore the ability to do damage to the blue. When you're really looking for levels to break through a seed, which this isn't really one that needs that, but just generically I mentioned this. When you're having a lot of trouble and dying in a lot of places, your answer to a lot of problems is levels, so keeping the idea of that blue dragon in the back of your mind is a good idea, just to check it out, see what it can do for you, because it's one of the easiest trap tiles to get back to.
Well, and with the number of packs leading up to it that were experience-rich and unrunnable, this would be a great grind spot. Just fight your way all the way up, fight the blue Ds for a little while, and then exit if you really needed to. And we've seen a few Temple of Fiends here in this flag set that have been particularly atrocious, so it's not outside the bounds of reason that you might need to think about where a grind could be later.
Webb equips the black shirt, but he's got a pro cape that's sitting there unequipped. So, a little bit off there.
Might just be a fan of the Incredibles. Don't wear capes.
And, you know, there's that, but there's also the ability to protect your mages with the cape the professionals.
Oh, details. The eye doesn't seem to be all that strong here, though, once you actually unload some magic into it. I guess everything dies easy
levels,
to
extra swing.
Yeah.
50 extra damage can really make an enemy look easy versus difficult. Orb for Willcleosis.
Yeah.
Beating
Apparently,
Lich.
in the time it took for me to look away and look back, Lich was dead. So, Chad is saying he's beefy, but I can't see him being that beefy considering the fact that it was a blink you miss it fight. Life 2 at level 7.
That is Red Mage learnable, I believe. Or Red Wizard learnable, I believe.
It wouldn't hurt to pick up a charge or two, just in case you need it. Because Life 2 is a fantastic spell. You hate seeing it at level 7, but at least you...
Well, I tell you, if you're 2-manning, it's really not bad, because if you ever need more than one charge, you already lost.
There is that. Will bringing out the game clincher to try and quickly finish off some of these Wiz-Sahag Arsahags, since this is one of the few fights in the game that is still permanently unrunnable no matter what we do.
Asterisks on that.
I know we're working on it.
We have a developed dev team who keeps doing stuff you didn't think could be done.
I know they're working on it right now. Huh?
Mage Staff's a very good utility. The value is low at this point.
Yeah,
not gonna
this deep into it. I mean, Webb is effectively running parallel to Will, and Will's already finished off 2 dungeons. At this point, you consider that Mage Staff is basically only going to be used for a couple quick dungeon runs on Go mode, and then Topher, it's... I mean, you like having it in case you hit some Gurmaduces, that's about it.
Alright, now there is something that could help Webb. He found the white shirt.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be free casts of Invis 2. It's also better than Gold Bracelet defense, absorb-wise, for the white mage. Well, it's equal to the Gold Bracelet absorb-wise, and then it also gives you extra status protection. It's not that important, but it does, so it's better. And there's no scenario in which I imagine Willcleosis is fighting it.
No, that's just far enough out of the way that it's not considered a greed chest. It's still a chest-dense little room there, but it's not something that I think most runners at this point in their run would hit unless they're desperately still searching for that one loose item to let them get into Temple of Fiends. It's in a spot that Will's just not going to see it.
That's also good news for Webb. Excalibur is not the equal of Mouse Immune by any stretch, but it's the second best you're doing on that night, so assuming he's not going to find Masa in the cave, that's his best case scenario there. We had a chat question asking why we say that one stays unrunnable. The answer is because in programming this game, there is a lot of use of tables that might be a little different than what you'd expect. So there's 128 fights with an A side and a B side. And it's because the A side is a boss fight that has to stay unrunnable that the B side becomes unrunnable for the Wiz-Sahag, Red-Sahag fight and the Iron Golem. Chat's already rooting for Warmech without a seat.
Go Warmech! We're on the bridge! Give us the Bridge of Destiny mech! Yeah, it's specifically the boss fight is the pirates, and because if you don't make the pirates unrunnable, you can try and run from it, but Vicky won't give you the item and it screws up a bunch of stuff from what I remember the devs were saying. The pirates have to remain unrunnable, which means that the Wiz-Sahag, Red-Sahag fight that's tied to it has to be. Now, they're looking at trying to figure out how to randomize up the A and B sides, I believe, so that the Wiz-Sahag wouldn't necessarily be tied to the pirates anymore. But that's one of those things that they haven't yet managed to put into account yet.
Now, that's also why I say never underestimate the devs. You never know when somebody's just going to come in and say, "Oh yeah, I fixed that." Yeah.
They haven't fixed it yet. I haven't seen from the Discord channel, but as the second they do, there will be much rejoicing among the community.
But a year ago, these flags wouldn't have been possible. We didn't have the docks to make the ship as valuable as it is, and we didn't have the freaking owl flag until just before this tournament started. So they continue to discover new ways to do things.
And there's the Discord channel for the development team has a whole lot of things going on. You'll see a ton of various features be suggested there, a small sliver of which gets implemented because there's always reasons why some pie-in-the-sky idea isn't going to work, but very often some random weird idea is suggested that eventually, after a little bit of contemplation, gets worked into the system one way or another. All kinds of weird ideas that you would think wouldn't be playable have all become flags in this game because of our dedicated development team. So, thanks to all of them. Will is up against the Master of Arms, Kraken 1. Kraken doesn't seem to be swinging all that hard in this incarnation, but has managed to resist the Bane Sword so far. Meanwhile, Webb is over at Tiamat, and Tiamat has Sleep, putting everyone but the White Mage down. White Mage does get their white charges off. Will takes out Kraken as we wait for Webb, but this puts currently Will up 3 to 1 crystals, assuming, of course, eventually that Webb then gets his second crystal here from Tiamat.
What Kraken? That was just a speed bump.
A squishy tentacle on the ground and move on with your life.
Chad asked what Webb is missing for Go Modal. He doesn't have the Oxyale, the Rod, or the Key.
And I know he has the slab. I don't think he's done the slab turn-in yet, though, has he?
It's still in his inventory, so no. It'll disappear from your inventory when you translated it.
And Oxyale's going to lead from that, so that's one of his items. He's still going to need to find the rod, which is over at Ordeals, and the key was with the tiny fairy, so you got to find the bottle for that, and bottle is an ice cave. So it's just a matter of he hasn't done his last couple of incentivized locations.
Yeah, and that means he should get to those in pretty short order. As long as you follow the logic of, okay, this is going to chain to something, and so I don't really need to find more loose items at this point.
Yeah, it's with the one loose item still out, though, Webb really needs to start going and checking like the incentivized items because he doesn't want to spend too much time doing unnecessary dungeon dives. As we can see, Willcleosis is doing Sky Castle right now, and he's basically speedrunning it because he doesn't have to check everything because he's in effective go mode now.
Yeah, that's absolutely a big difference. He's seems to be debating between using defense for making his knight more durable here, or using the Zeus Gauntlet for a little bit of supplemental damage. He opted for the defense, but now that he's seen how little the mummies are hitting for, I don't do that again.
No, not with the build-up that he has and the high levels that he's already at.
There's the Oxyel for Webb.
1 of 3 down.
Yeah, these checks should not take him long at this point.
No, not at all. The longest is probably going to be Ice Cave just because of the fact that you have to walk through the whole lap since there's no warp charge. But it's going to be long in distance. It's not going to be long as far as how difficult it's going to be just because he's already got a ton of levels from that Sky Palace.
Okay, so the only thing I can assume well, actually I think in that case what happened is Will wanted to use the Zeus, but he misclicked, probably did an extra click right, and swapped back to the defense sword and didn't realize it before he pressed A.
I've been there. It happens. It's an easy mistake to make. So since we are over an hour of the way through the seed, here is a quick rundown of everything so that you guys can keep up with what's going on. Corneria, of course, was Corneria. Provoca was Gaia. Elfland was Crescent Lake. Melmond was Onrak. Crescent Lake was Provoca. Onrak was Elfland. Gaia was Melmond. And Lefen, by default at that point, was Lefen. So you get to do the long walk to get your new language all implemented and get your item from there. As far as the items were concerned, Adamant was at Sarda. Bottle was at Ice Cave. Tribe was at Matoya. Canoe was at Bicky the Pirate. Crown was at Princess. Crystal was at the Onrak shop. Cube was at Astos. Floater was at Marsh. Herb was at the Elf King. Or no, the Dark Elf King. Oh no, sorry. Herb was at the Good King, not the Bad King. Too many notes here. Key was at Fairy. The Loot was at Narek the Dwarf. Oxyale was at Lefen. Rod was at Ordeals. The Ship was with the Elf Prince. Slab was with the Volcano. The Tail was with the confused old men wandering in the park. And the TNT was with the Dwarf Smith. We haven't found the Ruby. We're more than likely not going to need the Ruby. We're pretty much in go mode at this point, unless they decide to start searching around for more equipment, which I really doubt they're going to do.
No, Will has already gone past that point because one of the things you would have done would have been first floor Mirage. This is another place where you would have checked equipment if you were still searching. The floor he was just on, you can go either right or left and get a bunch of chests that way. And then you've got these 4 here, or another easy check that he's skipping. So he's going total go mode.
Yeah, all the greed chests are out of the way at this point, and he just doesn't care. He's just cruising through it. But with Mosmoon and the equipment build-out he has, I can't blame him in the least. He's got everything he needs now.
Radiant has requested my version of a recap, so here you go. Willcleosis is doing 2-man to get additional levels for his party members. He's already gotten to the extra swing of the Mosmoon. He gets ready for the Bridge of Destiny and a potential War Mech. Webb has gone 3-man for the majority of the game, so has a little bit higher levels, should still get into the 24 range before going into Temple of Fiends Revisited. Just has to hit the go mode locations from here. The incentive locations for go mode is what I'm trying to say. And so we're still looking at probably a tight enough race that although Willcleosis is first into Topher by a good margin, I think Webb will be close enough that if there is a wipe for Willcleosis, he's right there.
Yeah, if Will wipes it anywhere from carry onwards in Topher, then this is an evened up match. Anyone's game here. It's one decent wipe. And Webb has picked up his rod from Ordeal, so he's 1 item away at this point from go mode. 1 more quick check and he should be on his way.
Chat says when airs roll up on evade, they're really hit. Well, I would expect air to be pretty hard to hit with the sword. Just as a general concept.
Yeah, you can slap around water a lot easier, but air just glides right around you. I would totally think that would be hard to hit. And yes, to answer a question in chat, as part of this tracker that you see on screen right now, the various borders are changed actively by a tracker we have in the background. That would be Super Luigi 52, doing a great job there on tracking. We have to manually do everything to change the borders and so forth, along with the various items you see at the bottom. So that's everything that Super Luigi is doing, and they're doing a great job.
And thank you so much to Super Luigi, who, if I'm not mistaken, also tracked the midnight special, which is at 3 a.m. Eastern. So,
yeah.
Has put in a good bit of time already.
I think I saw over in the Discord at 5 a.m. they went to go take a quick nap before they came back for this, and they have, another, 2 games they're going to be helping with later today. They're a serious MVP this time around.
We have a great team of people who works to put all these broadcasts on. So much gratitude to go around. And if you'd like to get involved with any of this, start by going to Final Fantasy Randomizer. See everything about the randomizer, links to the Discord, etc. If you're in chat, we'll get those links out here.
Crabcake's noting that Will's pace through the game is insane, and when Crabcake says that someone's pace is insane, you know it's fast.
He is into Temple of Fiends Revisited at 1:13. That is a really, really impressive time.
It is. I'd still be doofing my way through, at least the second dungeon at this point, so... It looks like he has all 4 of his party members back up at this point. That Black Mage isn't going to survive a whole lot of awful spells, but right now, just to have them all up and ready so you get some meat shields and some extra casts, I can totally see doing this.
Yeah, Will did not fully go mode, or 2-man Sky, so he only got to level 25-26 on those 2 party members. But that's enough to ensure the extra immune swing without stopping and doing a dedicated level. So there was still value in what he did.
Yeah, because he only needs to get up to level 24 to get that next breakpoint on the Mazamoon and have it be extra useful. I think the one after that is 34, which isn't worth aiming for level-wise in a seed such as this. As we also should note that the Phantom immediately had it out for the Black Mage and knocked him back on his face.
Well, that'll happen. We do have the life charges, though, that you continue to bring that Black Mage back up. I think we ever saw Temper. Chat is talking about the levels and benefits thereof. We highlight the swing of the sword mostly because that's the biggest breakpoint of damage that a knight's going to get. But anytime you're adding levels, you're adding hit points, you're adding magic defense, and you're adding strength behind that sword. So those things all add up as well, even if they're subtle.
The knight, I believe, gains a bonus point of strength every level, plus there's, I think, a chance for extra bonus points at certain levels. So, just by having a knight be at level 26, that's an extra 26 points of strength by default on top of them. It makes a difference, especially when you're swinging a good sword like the Mazamoon as well. It's a lot of damage they can haul out with that.
Yeah, so it kind of all goes back to the more you play this randomizer, the more you're going to learn the difference between necessity and luxury. So, 24 on these nights with Masamune, we've seen that not necessarily be a necessity, but sure close to it. And then something like 26 or higher is absolute luxury. That was a high HP Kraken button.
Tarna giving me a correction, letting me know that there's only 1 point per strength per level, no extra bonus. But still, 26 points is decent in this game. We see we're already past the speed bump that was Lich. Onwards towards Carry 2 now.
That was one of those really annoying speed bumps. The kind that they build extra rough, where it feels like it's tearing up your car. It just took that extra time to...
Those big, broad, and tall ones that you really hate going over because it could scratch the undercarriage of your car when you hit the top of it.
The robot turned out to have the ruby.
Yep. That was just what I was about to say. And we need to see whether or not he's going to continue following that, or if he's going to go a different direction, because we know the ruby's really not going to lead to anything of value, so it's a concern of, do you go and turn that in, or do you go get your other item and be in actual go mode, because you're just missing the key at this point.
Question in chat, how do you know if you got the incentive ribbon or a non-incentive? The answer is very simple. If you got the ribbon from an incentive location, you got the incentive ribbon. If not, it was a loose ribbon.
And then at that point, the only other way to know for sure is if you have 3 of them, because there's only 3 in the game.
Unless you do randomized treasures, which is another feature.
Yeah. With the full
We're not
elite
with
treasures
this.
in there. No. I mean, I love seeing that when it happens. Get that one ribbon sitting there in the shop.
We're playing with
course,
shuffled treasures, so everything is 1 to 1. There's 1 dragon armor in the base game, there's 1 dragon armor in this one moss immune, etc. So it guarantees you're going to be able to find one of everything you search for. But you can randomize the treasures, which can give you a lot of really good stuff, or it could give you worse treasure.
I have seen it where you randomize the treasures, and instead of getting like the 3 ribbons you're supposed to get, you're lucky to even find 1. Which, that always stings when that happens.
Will is on to the Waterfall, as Webb is in the Sea Shrine, so we'll potentially see some overlapping enemies here.
Yeah, Webb is currently 2 crystals down right now because he's had to do those catch-ups on the various incentivized items, which I'm pretty certain, because he did go to Ice Cave, I think. He should have that bottle. I'm just not certain if he's turned it in yet.
So the other thing is, with the encounters that Will has taken through this Sea Shrine, he has actually gotten up to level 27 now. And he could easily be 28 before Chaos. So this is getting to be an even safer dive the further it goes on.
Very healthy seed for him.
What's funny is the seed could almost not be going more right for Will, but at the same time, you'll really feel the pressure when you're in a seed like this. Everything's going right, so the game feels like a real sprint to the end. You're worried that any little mistake costs you.
It's certainly the case. Depending upon the player you're playing against and how their run has gone, your 119 up to Kraken 2, like we're seeing right now, could feel super fast, and you can be comfortable, or you can be sitting there going, wow, they should be like 2 bosses ahead of me. They're going to finish any second now. It's how much do you play the game that you're seeing versus your opponent, and do you let that get into your head? It's a balancing act. And Kraken is spell heavy here.
That's really good news from this Kraken, who is highest base strength character in the game, so can hit really, really hard at randomizer.
Yeah, he didn't seem to want to attack. He just wanted to throw out some spells that did finish off the Black Mage. But in the process, he also didn't have that much in the way of health and went down pretty quickly.
You know, what's funny is, if you're measuring it in swings, no, that wasn't a lot, but that was over 800 HP of damage, so could have been very close to vanilla in terms of the HP of that Kraken. Then again, it feels like anytime it's only vanilla, that... Here comes Tiamat.
Looks like he was trying to decide for a second if he wanted to go all-out damage or if he wanted to do some buffing in the process.
Yeah, you're at a point where you have to figure out how many spells am I investing into Tiamat to get through the fight versus how much am I saving up for Chaos. And I think Webb is missing an item, missing the Tiamat. I don't know why he's checking this chest out of one.
I don't think he's
walking through the Sea Shrine and checking a lot.
I don't think he's turned in the bottle yet, so he doesn't have the key that came from it down the quest chain. which hopefully he hasn't removed it from his inventory yet, so he'll still at least realize he hasn't turned it in yet. Because it's one of those things of, you hate like opening the bottle and then having it get removed and forgetting that you need to check it.
Yeah, that's one of the worst things that can happen to you. You have to be conscious of that with the bottle and the slab, because they disappear from your inventory. It can also happen with the canoe, because that doesn't show up in your inventory, so if you got it so far in advance before you need it, sometimes you forget about it.
Crabcakes is questioning whether or not he's even been to Ice Cave yet. I thought Webb had been, but maybe I was mistaken in that regard, which, if he hasn't, that's a big check not to make, considering the fact that he's spending all this time on these treasure chests. Chaos, meanwhile, has already taken out the Black Mage, but I'm thinking some of the buffing got off so far, so that shouldn't be the end of the world there. Plus, he has fast charges and all the rest of his Red Wizards, so, like, even if the Black Mage was supposed to be his fast charger, it's not a big deal. But he's gone on to Fog 2. Nuclear comes out, does actually very low rolls on that Nuclear, all things considered. More buffing, get a Cure 4 out.
Paying off.
Yeah, exactly. The M-Def paying off huge for that. Continuing to buff and heal. Chaos doesn't even seem to be doing all that much damage as far as his physical attacks are concerned. That's the extra Fog 2s that he got out there. Accidentally tries to cast a Flame Sword, but doesn't matter because the mouse will be coming out for 500 damage is all she wrote, and that Chaos is down. GG's to Willcleosis.
And I believe that's going to be a PB time in these Swiss flags for Will, coming in at 123.25. He should be joining us soon. And yeah, the biggest thing about Fog 2 versus Invis 2 is Fog 2 is instantly effective and 100% effective. It is effective against crits by improving your absorb. The evasion is still going to be susceptible to crits. Well, I didn't say that right. Never mind. Ignore that. Scratch that. That's completely wrong what I said. There he is, the game clencher, the infectious Willcleosis. Was that a PB time?
Yes, it was. It was. 123 is the best for me. Yes, sir.
That was silly fast, honestly. Just crazy fast.
Thank you, Dark Moon. Thank you, Trenton.
So how much were you feeling the pressure in that Temple of Fiends revisited? Comfortable? Were you feeling it? What was going on?
Felt really good over level 24 with the Masmoon. Felt very fortunate to find that thing. I wanted to light an orb, essentially, and take some free chests. You don't usually pass up the top of Earth. But when I do Earth that early, I wanted to check it. That thing popped up. Could have been the Vorpal, could have been something else. I was going to head to Mirage and clear that out afterwards with a fast run. And hopefully get a weapon there, but didn't need to.
Yeah,
So-
that run, for the most part, seemed to go your way right there. Was there anything you were happy with? Anything you would have done differently in retrospect?
No. I got stonewalled, literally, in the waterfall, but that must have been the Ruby, I would think.
It was.
It was.
It was? Okay. So I got stonewalled there, and I'm happy with my decision to leave. I was class changed at the time, and didn't need to come back to the new Elfland area, which was the original Onrak. And so I said, okay, alright, I'm gonna make sure I knock out the incentive locations first. I'm gonna do Volcano and Ice Cave together. I wanna know what's in Ice Cave. I'm gonna clear out Volcano, light the orb, and then I'll go back to Waterfall. But I didn't need to, after I figured out the slab, turned into whatever it was, Oxiel, I think.
Yeah, overall, everything seemed to go really well for you. That was just an impressively fast run. I remember in the race you had against Tristal, he was talking about how 130 would have been a huge world record for him on that pace. Like, 123 is faster than that. Obviously, it's a slightly different flag set because we have a different captain and bard person with that. But, like, what do you think of that time? What were you thinking coming into this?
I felt pretty good about it. I haven't had much practice in. I don't know if you guys got to my notes. I don't know much about Webb. I made the Marsh Cave play early. I did send you those notes because what I saw from Webb, the only thing that I gathered was that he likes to explore a little bit and then cuts it off, and then hence the Marsh Cave. So that's what I decided to do. And fortunately, it worked out quite well. As far as the seed, pretty good. I struggled in Ice Cave. I thought maybe I went there a little bit early. I think it was Eye Mages with the Blaze. They were always back-to-back encounters popping up in that tough section, so I knew I was going to keep getting the images, and I learned that from the Waterfall with the mummies. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go in, I'm going to get this. I have to have this information to figure out if I need to go back to the waterfall or not, and when I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and from what we were swatching, because you're talking about your notes, which we did read some of those off at the start early on, just to give people some background on this particular matchup. This time, Webb actually managed to make it to Marsh Cave before you, just because they were following the early quest items, the crown and the herb that you got, and just seeing where those led, and that led to the Marsh Cave. They had Floater, I would say, a couple minutes before you did, but then they got mired over at Volcano and a couple of other things while you were off doing incentivized items. That was really the big difference here.
Oh. Yeah, because especially when we got the Fiends back-to-back in the Volcano and I was able to nuke them down, I knew how that encounter table was going to work.
Yeah,
so, how about that armory?
Webb didn't go to Provoca at Crescent Lake first. They immediately went to Volcano and didn't have exit and nuked to back them up.
Oh my. See, that's what Webb did. When I started, he went out of the boat, and instead of going like to the original on-rack area, he would stop off and go to Marsh Cave. So that's why I did exactly what it was that I saw Webb do. So I expected him to do the same.
Mm-hmm. It was an interesting path that he took, and it benefited you, because as you were just noting, that armory was fantastic.
Oh, that was loaded with Opal Bracelet, Power Gauntlet. Loose item, with the only loose item that ended up being required. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other one was.
Yeah, slab was the only loose one that we saw. Crab Cakes was talking about which one the other one loose had to be, but I don't think we ever really figured out. Maybe it was just a loose ribbon.
It's a third ribbon, yeah.
Yeah. So. And yeah, Webb still hasn't gone to Ice Cave, so they're checking every chest here. This is... Oof, that hurts.
I did that as well in the Ice Cave, and there's a lot of encounters in there, and there's some dangerous enemies that'll get you.
Yeah. But yeah, GG's, sir. That was an impressive run.
Thank you, Dark Moon. I just keep getting actually better and better as time goes on, and I'm ready. Moving on to 4-1, moving on to the playoffs, into the bracket stage, the Sweet 16.
You are guaranteed your spot at this point. That's got to feel really nice. So meanwhile, while we're watching Webb go work through the Earth Cave, unfortunately checking everything here, but still keeping his three-man party alive, progressing nicely as the Wolves are trying to give him the business, but I think he's got this under control so far. So Will, while you're here still, who do you think is going to be our guaranteed players? What are you looking at for the competition coming up?
Well, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to be seeded. Whether or not that's out there or not, if it is, I don't know. What I also do not know is the flag set. I have no idea. I was the one that designed this flag set. I think it was a great success, so I certainly hope that moving forward it will be something similar. So right now, I'm more focused on getting a flag set in there and getting some games and trying to figure out some patterns for that. As far as opponents, gosh, we've got Lord Fizzlebeef is in there. He wants a piece of me very badly. We've got Crab Cakes, of course, the mastermind. And we're going to see Edgeworth as well. We got One Fine Day, who already took me down once. So I don't exactly know how the pairings are going to work. I would expect to play one of the play-in race qualifiers, potentially, and that's completely up in the air, because that is a complete Shark Tank.
Yeah, Crab Cakes is already saying in chat that she wants to play against you in the tournament.
It would be an honor.
It'd be a match I would be down to watch. That would be fantastic to see.
Yeah, and, congratulations to Webb. Webb out of nowhere. We got all these quiet 3-1s. All of Team Vorpal 3-1 at this point, just before Czar's tough match last night against the Buzzsaw. And Webb, Dengwu, at 3-1, he could qualify for this, just really quiet. And they're going to do some damage. And we talked about it last night. Team Illuminati was able to get together for the Midnight Special 4. We talked about it a couple times, actually. The finalists last year in the 2018 Spring Tournament, Ice Blue and Edgeworth, had to come through the play-in race to get to the finals. So you never know with this, and that is a perfect example of the parity that we have going on in the flag set in this great game, and this great community, and these great players that we have, Darkmoon.
Absolutely. It's interesting to watch these tournaments play out, because it's as you said, just because you didn't make it with a guaranteed slot in doesn't mean you're out so far. And with the simple fact that pretty much anyone can like make it through the qualifiers and get in. In some ways, it feels like Topher. It can be anyone's game there at the end of it.
It definitely is. One misstep, one wrong move, one move that you make that doesn't pay out can give you the edge.
So to speak, but So while we're watching Webb clear out through the Earth Cave, and I do want to make note, like, as much as I'm saying, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that, it's hard to see them do these things, they've done very few things that have been wrong, necessarily. Forgetting the Ice Cave is the biggest issue they've had, but maybe they're just banking on that being an item that they don't necessarily need. Unfortunately, we know it's otherwise. But aside from that, their routing has been very strong, their play has been very strong, they've been doing really well here so far. It's one of those things that, I know I've been through this before, one unfortunate misstep can send your game, like, skittering off, you don't even realize that, but even with that, when they finally decide to make it over to Ice Cave after this, they're still going to make it into Topher well before 2 hours, and could finish this out in 2 hours. Considering the flag set we're in, that's still a fantastic time.
Yeah, it definitely is. I am on my way, Speed Gaming fans. Thank you for enjoying the show. Thank you to you, Dark Moon. I know Trenton stepped in. Trenton's doing probably triple duty today.
Yeah, I think he's up to something else now.
Is he? Okay.
Getting ready for the next match that he's going to be commentating as well. But thank you to you, sir. It's always a pleasure to have you in the booth with us.
Always a pleasure. We got to get together again, too, Dark Moon, sometime. We got to put on a show someday.
I'd love to do that. That'd be so much fun. Well, GG, sir. Thank you. Okay,
Sounds good.
Yes. So while we got this going on, Webb watching through the Earth Cave, I'm going to catch you guys up on what's coming up later today, because this is a very, very busy day here for Speed Gaming and Final Fantasy Randomizer. This match will finish up probably within the next hour or so as Webb clears out through Topher. After that, at 3 o'clock on Speed Gaming 3, we're going to have Trenton and Twitch and Chilled commentating a match between Caleb and Rumblefish82. That'll be fun to watch right there. After that, at 5 p.m., we have Kiyokatsuki versus DD Gaming. That's going to be commentated by Wout, and that's going to be on Speed Gaming 3 as well, so you can get and we're still working on getting channels set up for this one. We'll have at 6:30 on the Speed Gaming Network, Elastoid versus the Lord of Synth. And then at 9 p.m., Crystal MTG, the Dragon Slayer, going up against Falconic. So lots of great matches, lots of great stuff going on throughout the day. Stay tuned, stay with Speed Gaming, and keep watching everything that we are going to be doing. Oh, Arachnid's coming up against Webb. You can make it through this, man. We have faith in you.
There's more FF1 going on today than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah, we had 7 matches today on Saturday. It's Saturday right now, May 11th. We started with the Midnight Special Battle of 3-in-1s. A great win for the Buzzsaw. We moved on to this one. This was the second of 7. And Dark Moon just told you about all the great action we've got coming up. This is the best time of year for Final Fantasy Randomizer. It's so exciting, and we have so much fun, and all these great shows. Thank you to all the great crew, all the broadcasting, all the sacrificing of time and incredible skills that the community members do in order to make this happen, because we want to bring it to the fans, and we cannot do it without the fans. This is why we do this.
And it's a good time to remind everyone that if you haven't already, make sure to give your runners a follow, Willcleosis and Webb. Make sure to follow, of course, the commentators. I want to give special thanks to Trenton here for stepping in and helping out here when our previous commentator wasn't able to turn in. So thank you, Trenton. And of course, Luigi, Super Luigi 52 as well, our tracker. Give them a follow. Just share the love and share this great community with everyone that you can find. And one match I forgot to mention, which is technically on Sunday, but it's midnight tonight. Shadow Worker versus One Fine Day. That's going to finish up until 5 o'clock in the morning, or 5 o'clock in the evening tomorrow. So yeah, as Will put it, basically...
tomorrow. It's at
noon. Evening tomorrow. My fault.
No. Noon. Midday. It's
is it noon?
Tomorrow.
I'm misreading. Look at that. I see the PM, and I just get screwed up right there. Thank you, Trenton.
See, this is why more people should work on 24-hour time.
Yeah, why aren't we on military time yet? What's up with that?
Will, any comments on the whole 24-hour time?
Well, you see, oftentimes when I go to do my promotions as well, I look at our base Final Fantasy Randomizer schedule, which is written and designed by you, Trenton Geo, with that big smile on your face, and he does it in military time. Well, I happen to be live on Twitch, as we are right now, twitch.tv/speedgaming, and I actually have to do math in order to get the correct normal time, Trenton.
Math on Twitch.
And I'm doing actually math live on Twitch, and I'll only do that for you.
Webb is into the ice cave now and is being greeted by Blaze.
I don't know. I feel like if we had it in military time with parentheses, the local real time, that would be very helpful. It'd stop me from misreading the times and thinking that noon was midnight.
You know what? That's a good call. Remind me after the tournament to design the future spreadsheets that way.
Hey, there we
I'm
go.
sure we will.
So Webb is in Ice Cave, doing his thing, gonna finally get that bottle, which is gonna lead to the key, and that'll put him in go mode. He's got his 4 crystals done,
He
so...
is getting destroyed by those blaze rolls. Who does he have the ribbon on?
Well, he should also have a dragon armor. Is that elemental?
It is.
Yes, it's fire elemental, so if he's got ice armor or shield, it would resist. You found dragon armor, I don't remember where.
Dragon armor was in the ice cave. The drop, wasn't it?
Okay, so he doesn't have it yet.
Oh, so that's the problem.
Was there any sign of temper or warp?
No,
I never saw it. Okay.
not from you.
He's got all opal gear on, so that's lightning resistance.
Yeah, that's not entirely helpful here, although the one enemy that was casting lit spells wasn't doing any damage, but... Super Luigi's saying Temper may have been at level 7.
Okay, I checked the black magic in the new Gaia, and I didn't see it. I think that was only level 7 I checked. And then I dug out Life 2. Red Wizard learnable in the new Onrak, but it was pretty late for that anyway.
I mean, it was a nice find to have if you needed it.
Well, as I said, the thing about it being at that high a level is, with 2-man strats, if you need more than one charge, you've already lost.
It's true.
Yep. Man, with Life 1 being earlier, I budgeted as best that I could in case I needed that. And really, 5 weeks in a row now, I've essentially pulled the same strategy. With the adjustments to my opponent from the studying that I've done, and what I feel gives me the best chance to win, alongside the same base strategy, really.
Well, and really, when you can have Life 1 on a knight, you don't need much more than that as far as, like, life charges are concerned. That knight's going to be able to do so much for you there.
I know Fade was, I believe, white
He's
mage.
getting a terrible encounter table to appear.
I'm wondering if he did a power cycle on this before he came
Well,
in.
I think he intentionally didn't. I think he came in here on a different cycle because of how many he was seeing before. And it's working out worse, unfortunately, but he's just trying to get through at this point.
Yeah, I think he's on that same spot in the encounter table that he had when he was on Sky Floor 2, the Mirage Floor 2, where it was just back-to-back-to-back encounters there that slowed him down. This feels like that same rhythm right there.
That was the mummies off hard reset. I was really worried about him. Had to nuke him down and use my charges early.
Again with the images, coming in a 6-pack. He just cannot get away from this encounter. Has to have seen it at least 5 times on this floor. Using the harm 4 charges wisely. Oh, I'm sorry, this was another one, but still, that was a lot of this. Oh no.
Oh no, no!
Poor Webb, he has missed the dragon armor. Which is really bad for him because he sold the opal armor.
Hmm.
Oh my.
Yeah,
That's unfortunate.
the one bit of gear he was probably counting on finding, it's the one that he just walked away from. After, like, basically 100% checking every other dungeon.
I mean, I can't fault him when he's seen all those blazes for trying to get through this as quickly as possible. It's just, from what we know, that's unfortunately as bad as it could get.
Yeah, that hurts. I understand it, but it hurts.
Looks like he's just here for the incentive item. He's skipping everything else. I agree with that, actually. If that's the play you're making, you commit to it completely.
he knows this basically has to lead to the key one way or another, so get in, get out, get done. Especially with how bad those encounters were.
But unfortunately, it just sets him up very bad on the defense. I'm not sure what he has on at this point.
Not a whole lot. I'm not... Opal various gears, and I'm not certain if he's still rocking that chainmail or not.
Well, I don't think we saw flame or ice. At that point, I honestly would put the opal bracelet on him. He could also get away with steel armor for the good absorb. Steel armor plus ribbon wouldn't hurt quite as bad. Only one ribbon is putting him in a bad position here.
Yeah, the gear hasn't gone his way despite how much he ended up checking.
It's just unfortunately they weren't the checks that lined up with what he needed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where Will found the second ribbon at.
Marsh Cave
That's in the notes
and...
Marsh and ice. So by
ice?
not checking...
Nice.
Yeah. Ribbon was over in the Frost Wolf pack room.
Okay.
So by not going that direction as well, he missed out on the second ribbon.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
Did Webb check the
Probably
top
not
of
going to
Marsh?
check a lot of the key lock, if any.
I honestly don't recall anyone checking the top of Marsh.
Okay. Because Webb checked it in my studies of him. So I
Yeah,
make
he
sure I
did.
full cleared the bottom, which I don't usually do. And if need be, I would come back to it after like a Sea Shrine dive or a Mirage Floating Fortress clear if need be.
MG Weirdo is saying he did check Marsh, so top of Marsh. So if there was something there, it just didn't seem useful.
Yeah, he always did that in my studies.
That's a smart gamble right there. Like taking it, saving the couple minutes by not going up there. That's.
No, Webb, no! He got
just
rid of the
ditched the-
heal staff.
Yeah.
He was clearing up his inventory. You won't use heal staff a lot, but to take that tool away for no good reason, I just don't like it.
Yeah, if you're in a position where your mages don't have anything better to do, and like you're in chaos or something, and you're at a point where you just be throwing heal pots anyway. The heal staff is really nice because full party heal and don't have to deal with just the chance of running out of the inventory or anything else that goes with it. It's nice backup.
Now, it looks like he hard reset because I hit the gas dragons 2 in a row on this floor. And if that's the case, when he gets to the water floor, he's going to hit like 3 or 4 of those packs of seafood that just are really annoying.
They were annoying, but they were very rewarding. You got a lot of levels
Did.
from this Topher.
And I think the Phantom had Death Touch. He either that or he blasted my Black Wizard.
I want to say he just blasted him hard because your Black Wizard didn't have a lot of health, but whatever it was instantly dead. This time he's taken the Gas D fight. I'm wondering if maybe he's thinking he needs the levels now.
Well, this is the fight that broke the experience scale, as I'm fond of calling it.
And
It's
it's
literally, the 4 of them were so much that with bonus experience they were breaking the cap. They wouldn't even give you a number, they gave you some weird symbols with like the letter U.
and it didn't count for anything except for like 5 experience when you actually got it. Now we have a different experience fix in now that helps to minimize that, although I still think that one is rich enough that in the right circumstances it can still break the experience chart.
Yes, but if you're on that high of experience, 50 coming in here anyways. You're talking about double the experience. If you went to max experience, you'd be getting double the experience fight that you're getting right now, and you're already in the 20s. So you'd already be over 40 before coming in here. If you're gonna do that, you're probably gonna get 50 anyways. So it wouldn't bother you that much.
But yeah, it's worth noting, with all the extra checks that he had to do, he still is here in Topher, basically made it in before the 145 mark. If things go his way, and we saw, the most of the bosses were they could hit, but they weren't all that beefy as far as health is concerned. He still could pull in a sub 2 hour seat.
Chad asks, what weapon does he have? He does, in fact, have the Moss.
And Excal, I think he's... From what I saw, he might be swinging the Excal on his knight right now.
That would only make sense if you were putting Masa on the Red Mage who's still turned to stone. So you really should just put Masa on the knight and go for it.
Well, against the first couple bosses in the dungeon here, I don't think Excal is all that bad. It's right around the point where you really have to start worrying about health versus what kind of defenses they may have, that the Excal stops being as worthwhile and the Mazda starts being a better choice.
It's a very logical thing of, hey, I can have 2 people swinging big swords instead of 1. But then what I think most people forget to factor in is that at the time you're at a boss fight, you aren't swinging that second sword anyways. You're doing spells. So the Red Mage having that second sword doesn't really pay off unless that second sword is something utility like Vorpal or Katana on a ninja. Now, if
I can certainly see it.
That's different.
I can certainly see it for the first 2 bosses, just because more than likely Lich is a speed bump, and I would say a good 50% of the time, Carry is little more than a speed bump as well. Swinging 2 swords at that point just to get maximum damage isn't a big deal, especially if you're in one of those seeds where you need to conserve your spell charges. This particular seed doesn't necessarily rate conservation, though.
So, because he never brought the Red Mage up for the boss fights, all he did was have a lower damage output for the knight.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's got the Mossmune on there. I would keep it that way and not bring the Red Mage up until Kraken at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Lich does survive a first round of, pure damage, although it looks like he's not using his most powerful spells from all the characters.
No, you really try and conserve spells.
Mm-hmm.
Lich and Carry whenever possible. If you've got plenty of fast charges available, go ahead and use it just because it speeds the fight up, and anything that speeds the fight up is good, as long as it doesn't cost you later.
Yeah, there's multiple unrunnable fire encounters coming up.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the fast charges, you only need to cast 1 on one of your characters, unless you happen to be up against a boss that has slow 2, and you have to keep recasting it to get it back up again. But for the most part, you're not going to be taking those fast charges with you, so at a certain point, extra fast on other characters doesn't matter quite as much, just in case you want to get the bonus damage out there. It's a give and take.
The nice thing about it being at such a low level, though, is that you can spam it for all these bosses, which makes them a lot better. You're not going to be scared of going multiple rounds with Lich unless he fires off some spell that makes you scared.
Instant first turn nuke. Yeah.
But having the confidence that you can just throw a fast on there and get it done that much easier, it's always a nice feeling. If you only have 3, you're going to feel okay about Temple of Fiends Revisited. If you've got 5, then it's like, great, I can use it all over the place.
Yeah, I like what Webb's doing. He's using the black shirt. He's conserving those charges as best that he can. Keeps running into these unrunnable fires. That's the 3rd one.
Well, that's what those kinds of items are really designed for, is those packs that you have to just keep fighting, where you don't want to use your charges, but taking them out one at a time with the Moslem is just too slow.
Yeah, that's actually a case where you add up all the damage per round, and the black shirt was actually out-damaging Mossmune. That doesn't happen too often. Just fun fact there.
Now, we have a comment in chat about the fact that Webb is wasting quote-unquote time moving for his heal pots there while he's healing. It's something that some of the various runners will do, is try and optimize where their heal pots fall. Get rid of tents and cabins in your inventory so that heal is on the leftmost column, or if you can't do that, you buy some or engineer some key item in there that you can just find that would do the trick. Webb didn't do that, so it's taken him a little extra time, although depending on how long it would have taken to actually use up the... Well, he's only got 2 tents, but depending upon how much you have in your inventory, sometimes using up the items to get your heals in the right spot wastes more time than just dealing with wherever the heals fall.
Yeah, you know, it took me about 8 months of playing this game to actually do something like that. I don't see it as a big thing. I like it that it makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it necessarily makes me that much faster. Probably very small and incrementally, but having them in the same spot and knowing that the buttons that I have to hit every time does help me.
It's the muscle memory of it.
Yeah, and in that case, it's good to just practice it being in the various positions. Like in this case, Webb is actually doing an extra button press because he's doing left twice to get there. He actually only has to do 2 by going up and left, and he'd be there instead of 3 clicks.
Webb gets away. Here comes another seafood party pack fight. There it is.
Yep. Yeah, I know that I've watched enough of the games that we've done here that I will try when I go into Topher to optimize my heal pots. I actually, at times, will be optimizing it throughout my run, just because there are some times where, depending upon the levels you have, you're needing to hit those heal pots in various dungeons, and the more time you can save, the easier it is for you.
I thought there was a Grey Shark Wizard Sahag encounter coming up. Okay.
You could still easily get another one before this floor is over.
Okay.
I hate navigating to the right heals and then having to go for that third character in your party. It always feels so slow. Nuke. Nuke. And I note he doesn't have fast. I don't see fast on his characters.
Level 1.
It was right there. It was easy to get. Yeah, he's got ice too.
Oh
He doesn't have.
He does not have fast. Oh gosh.
That hurts a little. Ice 2 takes out the red mage. Other party members still standing, gets his buffs up, throws out a Zeus gauntlet. Trying the Brax, although bracket of Kraken 2 isn't as useful because he has a full MDef up, doesn't he?
It's 3 and 256 here versus the 1 in 5 chance on Kraken 1, so there's still a chance, it's just not great. But the lack of fast is pretty huge because it's basically cutting your damage output in half.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those instances where I know it's a low chance of getting it, but when it's versus like spell charges versus the Bane Sword, which we know he has, at least he should, because we saw it at one point. I like the Bane Sword for that instead if I'm just gonna burn charges like that.
Using up some heal 3s, I actually am not crazy about that on the same level as Cure. Want all those charges I could get. Keeping the red mage in the front, he's gonna get a random encounter. It's just too likely you're gonna get one in between Kraken and Tia 2. That would be a monster run if you got away with no encounters.
Airs apparently have poison touch, so poison gas airs.
There's so many poison touches in the game, I don't even think it's possible to go through a seed without seeing it. Like, we talk about Warmechs and T-Rexes and all those rare encounters. If you ever found a seed with no poison touch, hold that one up for the world because you have found perhaps the most rare possible scenario.
It would have to be a seriously jet seed to be able to get away with that. Something with a long run at the start and some very easy encounters that didn't have poison that you could get through, and then be like, okay, I'm done. I'm go mode, I'm out.
You would basically have to always be seeing the same enemies as the nuclear comes out. Always seeing the same enemies that didn't happen. And there's where I would have liked the...
Yeah.
See the position he's in, and now you gotta...
Oh,
back there's another one?
Oh!
Oh,
400
my.
damage. He can still get through this.
He
Did
could.
he learn life on the night? I can't imagine he went back for magic if he didn't pass.
No, it was level 4.
No, Life 1 was night learnable. I think it was level 2, wasn't it?
Was it?
Needs to get through it. This hit. Is this enough? Got it.
It was level 2 or it was level 3, but it was night learnable. I know that much.
About to find out for sure. He's only got 10 heal potions left.
Oh no!
Oh boy.
He's
Chaos hit me
in
with
rough
something,
shape.
didn't he?
Move the ribbon. Move the ribbon, Webb.
I hope he doesn't hit that zombie encounter. The whiz vamps and the zombie dragons
No,
that I had.
Webb, move the ribbon. Move the ribbon. Don't take a step. He got away with it. He needs to set up his equipment. You want defense sword, bane sword, and
Iron
Masa on the knight. You want
Opal
the
bracelet.
ribbon over there. He's on iron armor. Yes, he needs,
Opal
he
bracelet.
needs iron and ribbon.
Move
the
your
ribbon.
help.
Webb,
No.
move the ribbon.
No!
Please, please, Webb. Please move the ribbon.
No! Also put the Bane Sword on your guy, you never know. Oh. This hurts.
Oh!
Nuclear first round.
Ow. And rub.
What? Oh!
You know, he didn't have a pro ring and he didn't have the ribbon. That's
There's
not
no
a surprise,
resistance there.
really. And that is enough for Webb. I feel like Webb just got off his game early and was trying to find his footing since then. I'm sure there's a number of things he would do different.
That was a tough beat right there. You hate to see it go out like that. He has officially forfeited, but we're gonna see if we can get him in for an interview. But GG's no matter what. That was rough.
We've all done that. You know, we've all had, you know, not move the ribbon over, not move the defense over, not like equip the Vorpal. You always want to equip the Vorpal, something like that, especially in this situation. And you learn from it and you grow. I mean, I got rubbed last year in the play-in race, cost me getting into the playoffs, and I was through a ribbon, but the
Well,
you learn
Webb
from this
is
and you grow.
here now. So Webb, just tell us a little bit about what you were thinking through that one and what kind of stands out to you in retrospect.
Ooh, what a loaded question. I guess the initial encounter table where you don't really find anything for the first, 45 steps or whatever it was exactly. That was pretty nice. But then the kind of cluster that you get kind of immediately following that was a little bit rough. I think I ran into a bunch of kind of bad unrunnable packs a few times that kind of hurt me a little bit.
Yeah, there was a few instances there where it seemed like the seed was a little out to get you, but the earliest one it seemed like the volcano dive you did with the nasty giants and the awful Fiends for your low level party.
Yeah, that was rough. I really wish I would have just gone to Crescent Lake right away to see the Provoca magic. I think that would have just changed the whole thing for me a little bit.
Yeah, we were curious about that. What made you go to Volcano instead of checking some of the towns around there first?
I thought I had checked Crescent Lake already, so I just forgot that I hadn't and made the mistake of not going there.
It's understandable. I think we've all been there at one point or another.
Webb, in the overall sense, what's kind of been your takeaway from the Swiss round, and what maybe will you change about your game style that's come up in these?
What would I change? Wow. I think it's I don't know. I'm not sure right now.
I feel you. That was a hard beat right there.
Congratulations, Webb. Getting to 3-1 so quietly, very impressive. Now you get to go into the play-in race. You're in the same position that I was last year. And when I studied you, Webb, I saw a lot of me. I think they're actually better than I was back then. Actually, a lot better. So, congratulations. Well played. And you're still moving on. I mean, the winner last year and the runner-up came through that play-in race. And I know you can do it from what I saw.
Thanks.
Well, how about
GG's,
you?
Will.
Any takeaways from the Swiss rounds of playing? Is that just talking?
All about fun. Get in there and have fun. I think maybe I've arrived personally. Tough schedule, not easy. We're able to get everything done. Just having fun, Trenton. I'm having an absolute blast. You know, if I got eliminated today and moved to the play-in race, you know, that'd be fine too. But love this game and love the fans, and it's all about them. I'd also like to point out that I named my Light Warriors this time after Team Vorpal. The founding 4 members, Shalasia, Zardia, Falconic, and myself, Team Vorpal Pride.
I am always amused by the amount of love for that sword.
I'm going to go ahead and get my final thoughts in and thank both of our runners for putting on quite the show today. Thank you, everybody who joined us here. I got to go get ready for the next one, so thank you, Speed Gaming, Luigi, for being our tracker. Dark Moon, it was fun, and do this again sometime. Have a great one, everybody.
Yes, thank you to everyone. Thank you to the fans. Thank you to Speed Gaming for hosting us. Make sure to give everyone a follow that you saw here today, and we will see you guys next time. Until then.
Revive the power of the orbs.